Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. Here we are in 2011. It's known as the Year of the Rabbit according to Chinese astrology. And our guest joining us here on the program today has spent close to 30 years in helping people reach success in their lives. She offers effective spiritual life coaching, complete with a deep knowledge of the ancient art of Chinese astrology or destiny. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today someone who's going to tell us what we've got in store for us this year, good and bad. On the Beyond 50 radio program, I'd like to welcome Elizabeth Peter. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program.
Hi, Dan. Thank you so much for having me, and I would like to wish you a very happy Lunar New Year for you and all your listeners.
Now, tell us about 2011. Is this going to be different from what we've experienced in the last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? What's going to be unique about this year?
Well, as it says in the title, this is the Year of the Metal Rabbit, starting on February 3rd, going through January 22nd of 2012. And this year is very similar to the last year's energies of the metal tiger in that we still see the metal element above and yin wood below, meaning we still have a similar alchemy of metal opposing wood. It's just that in this year we have yin metal and yin wood as opposed to yang metal and yang wood in the tiger year. And so the energies are repeated from last year. But the interrelationship between metal and wood is a little bit more subdued, and it will take a less direct approach than the yang metal, yang wood last year did. So it's still an interrelationship where metal destroys wood, so we still see a conflicting energy from last year. And yin metal above yin wood also represents like a sharp knife or a sword. Or it can also be likened to gold or silver jewelry. It's very shiny, very beautiful, and unassuming at first, but then below there's this tension. There's this unexpressed tension because metal is a tough element. It can be used for protection as well as a weapon, for example, and it can also be used as like a mirror that reflects back the truth that we see. So these are just a general symbolism for the year of the metal rabbit.
Okay. So now let's talk about the significance this year. I know a lot of people want to know, are things going to get better on the economy front? There's just a lot of things that we're really curious about. Let's talk about those.
Okay, so then in 2011, we can definitely expect the general mood to be a lot more calm, and the intensity of the tiger year will give room to more contemplation, and the enjoyment of the beauty of the arts and fashion and entertainment industry is definitely going to get a boost. In general, the softer side of life could, dominate because the rabbit loves the arts. A lot of the greatest art collectors come out of this group, and there's definitely a more deeper expectation, a yearning for peace and unity that will be felt this year. But let's not forget that we still have the disharmony brewing beneath the surface. So on another level, we could also hear a lot of surprise attacks, terrorist attacks, or secret agendas going on in the background, and of course the massive manipulation of the general public by the powers that want to be. So, metal on wood is symbolic of a knife behind the back because wood represents the bones. So secret plots, backstabbing, things like this could be, like I said, frequent news. While during the Tiger's year, the energies were more like about leadership and justice. This yin metal is more about surprises, undercurrent of secret clashes and things like that. So we need to watch out about gossips and backbiting and things like that. And 60 years ago, during the last Metal Rabbit year, in 1951, the world was entering the Cold War years. McCarthyism was rampant, and police terror, secret police terror was rampant in the communist countries. So we still have some of the energies that remains with us from those years. But my hope is that the consciousness of our human family has grown immensely during those last 60 years, and no matter how hard the negative powers keep trying, those among us who are raising their consciousness frequencies will be able to fully enjoy the peace and harmony that this rabbit year offers.
Now, it's quite interesting because you talk about, manipulation. And, the fact is that it seems this day and age we're getting to a point that we're becoming more well aware, for instance, of what our government has been doing and what big corporations have been doing and how they kind of lay in bed with each other and, make sure that they're looking out for each other's interests while spouting off how they're actually looking out for the good of the people. How does all of that look, do you think?
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's still a massive manipulation going on in the background, but, like I said, people are waking up and they are demanding more truth about everything. We still continue with the truth movement of last year. Let's not forget about what the Tiger Year started was very serious dismantling of these systems of lies and fraud and such. So although the mood simmers down, even in the political scene, people will be still driving for the truth. Although the rabbit loves peace and harmony, the movement, the rabbit really represents family and community. It likes to have peace. The motto for the rabbit is, it's better to run than to fight, or live and let live. But at the same time, the metal element above still is about the truth. And we will see that the rabbit year will mop up what the Tiger Year started. It will put the finishing touches on the investigations, the war crimes, for example, and all those injustices that were perpetrated by the rulers of the previous age, the Age of Powers, that went on for over 200 years. It's a tall order, but the time is now, and it seems the peace-loving rabbit may just have the last word, So, yeah, you asked me about the economy. Just want to go back to, the yin wood represents young trees and flowers and branches. It's symbolic of the early spring month. And so the growth that we started to feel last year, because the Tiger Year still represents also the early part of spring, that growth, that slow growth, is definitely going to continue. And it will surge from unexpected areas of the economy, such as the new greens, inventive, alternative energy-producing industries. So we might be surprised how they will start really moving forward this year. And it will also give a little bit more optimism to the financial markets on a worldwide scale. And meanwhile, we have the retail, transportation industries. They might see some growth, at least for the first 5 months of the year. The real estate market, again, we'll see more speculation going on because the earth element is suffering this year from the metal. Metal takes energy from earth. So there will be some moderate growth expected there. More after June, I would say, than in the early part of the year. And then the other industries such as finance, hotel, labor-intensive industries will do very well. And the high-tech industries such as the internet, there will be a lot of competition, but I think because yin metal favors communication, information technology, and education, internet education will really take off this year. And then the other industries, such as woodwork industries like fashion and publishing, etc., just moderate growth. So we can see that the financial sector is still very cautious, very sober. Maybe some of the months, some fire-ruled months, such as May or June or August, September, we might see a little bit more optimism. But it's similar. It's a similar atmosphere as last year. Now, meanwhile, the powerful worldwide influence of the Fed Reserve of the U.S. is winding down. I don't know if you've heard the news, but they actually had a deadline for January 30th of this year to pay up to the Chinese, and somehow they managed to get an extension to not pay up until August 1st. So we could still see the dragging out of this energy until August. And there's talk about a new form of currency being introduced, but we shall see how that plays out.
Yeah, hopefully it won't be the Ben Bernanke buck.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Now, what about the political outlook? Do we see a change there? I mean, there was, this audacity of hope of Barack Obama and the feeling that people were actually beginning to rein in the government and actually have a voice in having him elected. But how are things really looking now?
Well, as I mentioned, the rabbit loves peace and harmony and comfort. Mm-hmm. So there will be a greater demand for the rights of the family unit, for the protection of the children, and the sovereign rights of the individual states in the U.S. I think they're really going to start to be more assertive with their rights. Interestingly, a movement is spreading in the U.S. communities. Many communities are starting to place their individual rights above the rights of corporations, and I made a link to my article to this interesting news article that many states and cities are stepping out with that. And we could also see an escalation of dissatisfaction or even the dismantling of the European Union with its euro currency, which, we hear a lot about that. And let's not forget the spring rabbit is also symbolic of youth, and the younger generation will be increasingly giving voice to change. And so they want to dismantle the old decaying system, building fresh new forms of social groups around the globe. So 2011 will continue to be a year of struggle and intrigue. We also reached day 7 on the Mayan count, and starting on March 9th, we will also reach the highest level of the pyramid, those pyramids we see in the Mayan countries. And so the final age, called the universal age, is coming in. It will be the shortest age. It's only lasting from March 9th until October 28th, 2011. So we also see this incredible increase of energies and shifts of this final chapter of the evolution of consciousness taking shape in 2011. So it's all according to plan, Dan, and we might just see the end of the seemingly endless wars this year, in my view. While 2010 was represented by Night 6 on the Mayan calendar, which was ruled by the truth-driven metal tiger, in 2011, the gentle but clever metal rabbit will finish the job. And I think we will see a more of a unified consciousness emerging out of this year. I mean, I know this sounds almost unbelievable, but I have great hope in that.
Well, it's good to have some hope, isn't it?
Definitely.
Now, I've been told that there's a possibility of an ice age coming around the corner here, and obviously, as you take a look at there was a movie that came out about a year or so ago, 2012, which seem to focus on basically the Earth just falling apart out of our control. And what do these things really look like here?
Well, yeah, we're in a solar minimum. If you look at the NASA pictures, it shows that, since about 2005 or 2007, I'm not sure, we started going into a cooler solar activity period, which is great because in those periods we see less likelihood for wars. That's why they keep trying and trying, and there's the big one just doesn't happen. So from that point of view, I think it's great. But yeah, I would say there's definitely a cool down in many parts of the world, and in parts where we don't necessarily expect it even. And we are also in metal years, like last year, yang metal dominated and affected Earth changes as I predicted. There were definitely more earthquakes, even the volcanic eruption. Due to these visiting stars of 5, 3, and 2 in those areas, definitely changed Earth activities in a big way. And based on the flying stars chart, that's also part of this feng shui system, in 2011, the troublesome 5-star travels to the east. And what makes it more potent is that the Grand Duke, we call it a Grand Duke, it's actually the planet Jupiter, it will reside in the east this year. And so we could expect some serious earth changes in the eastern parts of any country or continent or the planet. Remember, this is macro and micro, so it's even your house, the eastern part of your house is affected. So we should also watch the northern parts where the 3 angry star visits, and then the south visited by the 2 Cygnus star, which is, it brings, issues with health and such. And then the center also needs to be watched because we see the number 7 metal star visiting there, which is also not a friendly star this year. It brings legal issues and such. So I wouldn't call it an ice age. I would just say that the weather is erratic. It's more cold, more windy, because metal belongs to the cooler elements. And so, and remember, we also see Mother Earth is more plumbed because there is no sun, there's no fire in these metal years. So there's definitely a likelihood for increased droughts, more wind, and the absence of water is still there this year. So we see a continuation of last year's droughts, which is very distressing to the wildlife and the animal kingdom and the already drought-stricken parts of the world. And so my hope is that with the new green technologies, there will be some more help arriving to these areas around the globe. But then, we see a sudden increase of water coming in 2012, and the sun activity increases dramatically in 2012, according to some of the predictions by the NASA scientists. So we'll see how that plays out. But right now, definitely, we're still continuing to be in a more sober, drier climate than before.
So we don't really see much of an ice age coming on then?
I would say maybe the winter months, like December, definitely could be a lot colder, especially in the northern hemisphere. But, do you notice it in your area? Is it much colder where you live?
No, actually, what I've noticed living up here in the Northwest is this had to be probably the mildest winter I've ever experienced up here.
Yeah.
There were a couple of cold days, maybe a total of 3 weeks, but that was from, October until toward the end of January. But other than that, no, it's been very, very mellow, actually.
Right. So, in some parts where it should be warm, it's colder, and in some parts where it should be colder, it's warmer. So I don't think we can make a generalized prediction. I think it's just erratic because our Mother Earth is going through a lot of changes. Some call it birth changes. She's birthing a new energy, a new shift, and I'm sure that that activity is going to increase dramatically, especially after the second part of the year. Many people are predicting more earth changes activities such as earthquakes and mudslides. Um, like I said, the central part is interesting because the name for the number 7 star is called to break apart and to break down the old and make room for the new. And so it's not a coincidence that this star will rule the center this year, because we will see the old kind of breaking apart, and there will be something new built. And I think that goes for our Mother Earth too. And she is definitely birthing something new.
Oh, fascinating stuff. And speaking of birthing, how about relationships?
Yeah, the rabbit is famous for its being very romantic and loves the family life, and representing springtime, where we see an increase of babies grown, and the early season of spring is the influence for new relationships to spring to life. More love affairs, increased numbers of marriages can be expected this year. Certainly, relationships that started last year could end up in marriages this year, because this is a luckier year for marriage, definitely, than the year of the tiger, where we had a blue moon. And on the flip side, of course, we can expect a little bit more fidelity issues, scandals, indiscretions. So caution is advised for existing relationships, for people to kind of have some moderation, self-discipline. Fortunately, we have the yin metal there that represents self-discipline. So hopefully people will find more discipline in themselves. Now, the flower of romance star in this year is helpful to those who were born in the tiger year, the dog year, which is you, the horse and the rat. So it's definitely a very romantic year in general. And then the traveling star this year, is very nicely aspected for the snake, the ox, and the rooster. And so those people will probably find themselves moving house or traveling a lot more than they normally do. So in general, the peaceful, private, and gentle rabbit helps us to kind of calm our nerves and look to our loved ones, our families, and friends to bring greater harmony into our lives.
Wow, that sounds very exciting. Now, let's talk about, for instance, health, and that is, are we going to start seeing changes in that area there?
Well, as I mentioned, the element metal it represents a drier climate. So metal, because it draws energy from Earth, it makes for much a drier year, causing more air pollution, which adversely affects our breathing organs, such as the lungs and the skin. And so people with asthma and other issues definitely need to watch their health more. And wood is sitting below metal, so it's also afflicted where more stress is placed on the immune system. So this is a good year to start a more healthy lifestyle, stop smoking. And, in Chinese medicine, metal also rules the lungs and the colon. And so with the absence of fire, the organs affected are the heart and the circulatory system. So definitely we should take better care of these vital organs and make sure we reduce inflammation. And then, people with weak wood or weak earth elements in their charts definitely should watch out for injuries, because, again, wood represents the skeletal system and metal breaks wood. So, people should call me for any detailed information on this, because definitely it's every individual's chart is very, very different, and you can't really make a generalized statement here about that. But in general, we're in for another dry year, unfortunately, until 2012.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds very encouraging, I guess, for people who like to go water skiing, I guess. Now, I was looking on your website, and there was a curious word, bazi. What exactly is that?
Well, just in a nutshell, I mean, I could talk a lot about that, Dan, but it's a great life improvement tool. It can bring positive impact to our lives if we know, let's say, who we are, who our loved ones are. I mean, in the words of a great teacher, Peter Lung, a lot of families uh, create a lot of problems, divorces, human conflicts occur because of misunderstandings, not understanding each other's personalities. A wife or a husband may try to change each other, or a mother may try to clone their kids into who she is. So, we humans refuse to accept that we are very different. And, trying to change others by force, we just create problems. And so to understand ourselves and each other, we could definitely create more harmony and peace in our lives. And knowing our strengths and weaknesses is important. Knowing our luck periods and our yearly, good luck or bad luck, we can save our ammunition for the coming good years, for example, if we know we have a bad year. So, this system has been developed 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, and people used it extensively back in those days. Now it's really coming back again in Asian countries. People use it very much to really follow this knowledge so they can optimize their lives and help themselves, help their families to prosper and to have better health. You want to know, if you know what organs in your body are a little bit more weak, then you can prevent issues from happening. So it's a great system to use all around. It's more like a cosmic system than just astrology, where astrology only uses the stars that are just around in our solar system. This really is more of a quantum system. Our quantum physics actually proves a lot of the scientific or artistic energies that are expressed in Vazi.
Well, Elizabeth, Peter, these sound like very exciting times, again, for us, especially as you were talking about the idea of lighter consciousness coming in, and the idea of good kind of removing people who seem to not want to be in that particular realm of thinking, and that we can all feel a really, I guess, good change as far as things to come.
Definitely. I would summarize it this way, Dan. We may conclude that although the year 2011 could seemingly be a calm and quiet year, there's definitely a little bit more tension beneath the surface, but and metal and wood still remains in a conflicting situation, no question about it. But on the whole, I would say that we will see a yearning for peace. And last year's cosmic standoff that was filled with confrontation will play out in a more subtle way. And, this conflict needs to be finished, and it will be finished in 2011. And so the shifting times of these final years on the Mayan Code represent the greatest opportunities for us to forge into better beings, kind of like you forge steel to be a more noble metal. So let us not look at these shifts as obstacles, and we'll make the most of the Year of the Rabbit. People who love harmony, peace, and connecting with family and community life will experience a thrilling and rewarding year. And those who seek to continue with destruction and war and such could be surprised by a sudden misfortune on their own person. So on all levels, the personal and collective, it is a year to form lasting friendships and connecting with loved ones, creating an ever greater powerful cluster of soul groups that can become living cells of new growth and prosperity. And just finally, I wrote this little article in December. I envision 2011 to be the year when humanity at large will arrive at the consciousness level that allows for the gap between those traveling the dark rifts of fear and the ones who travel the glowing light of knowing from the heart to close. The powerful energy that is present in this recent winter solstice that we just went through and the eclipses, they initiate this huge shift. So the forces of positive change definitely are at work, and 2011 will be a most intense and monumental chapter to close all chapters. It will be a year of celebration of our arrival at the threshold of the highest dimensions.
So it won't necessarily be John Cusack saving everybody from all the earthly disasters we were supposed to experience.
No, well, the disasters, we will not be here when those happen. See, that's what they forget to tell us in those movies. We will be moved to a higher dimension by then. We move with Mother Earth as she gives birth. We are moving with her. So there will be very, very, very few left, if any, while Mother Earth is going through these changes. That's how I understand it anyway. I mean, we all have our own views and visions and hopes, and that's mine.
Now, your website is redlotus.com. Is that correct?
.org.
Okay.
It's
.org. My apologies. And is there a newsletter people can find out things? Or?
Yes. If people sign up for my newsletter, it comes out through email. So you can always email me at elizabeth@redlotus.org. I also have a YouTube channel with the username redlotus888. And, I invite people to visit my new uploaded monthly predictions. And, of course, the yearly prediction will be also uploaded both to the website and the YouTube channel there.
Well, Elizabeth Peter, thank you for joining us here on the program and telling us what we have in store. It sounds pretty interesting. As they say, these are interesting times. We thank you for being on the program today.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. And Happy New Year to all.
Thank you. We also want to thank you, the listeners out there, for joining us today. Again, 2011. It makes you want to get up out of bed every single day just to see what's going to happen next. One of the things you can do once you rise, though, is you can sign up for our free weekly e-newsletter, which is beyond50radio.com. That's our website. Right there you'll find a nice little box you can put your name and email address in there. It's absolutely free. That is the number 50. We again thank you for joining us. I'm Daniel Davis. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.